So where do I start? So the person that is impulsive one moment and calm the next has not the proper control over himself or herself. He or she is not the master of his or her mind, nor his or her thoughts, feelings, and wishes. What else to say? A person that cannot direct his energy and hold them at one work in a concentrated manner controls his every work and action, thereby gains control or power over others. That's one thing, but another thing I want to read is, let me see. He is consciously attentive and hold his mind to one thing at a time. He blocks out and shut out everything else. When you are talking to anyone, give him or her your undivided attention. Make sure you narrow your focus towards that one person or one thing at a time. Do not let your attention wander or be diverted. Give no heed to anything else, but make your will and your intellect act as one. Start out in the morning and see how self-focused you can remain all day. At times, take an inventory of your actions during the day and see if you have kept your determination. Never be too much in a hurry. Remember, the more you improve your concentration, the greater are your possibilities. Concentration means success because you are better able to control yourself and to master yourself and focus your mind because you have a deep thought focus and thought concentration. When you are talking to a person, have your own plans in mind. Concentrate your strength upon the purpose you are talking about. Watch his or her every movement, but keep your own plans before you. Unless you do, you will waste your energy and not accomplish as much as you should. I want you to watch the next person you see that has the reputation of being a strong character, a man or woman of force and strength. Watch and see what a perfect control he or she has over his body. Then I want you to watch just an ordinary person and notice how he moves his eyes, hands, arms, fingers, and notice the useless expression of energy. That's impulsive. So the one who is impulsive one minute and then calm the next minute is the one who lacks control over his or herself. So the more and more you control your reality, you control your energy, and you master your energy, the more and more you can direct your energy towards one subject, object, or thing. So a person that achieves a high level of success, they have a strong thought focus. So like when you master your craft, you dedicate so much of your mental focus and energy towards that one thing that you analyze yourself step by step systematically all throughout the day, and you pay attention to how you move, you pay attention to how you think, how you say things, how you operate, how you express yourself, and you analyze every small detail. You even pay attention to how you walk into the room. You pay attention to the way in which you move, and you want to make sure that you don't have any impulsive expressions. So like when a person is probably standing up, or a person is sitting down, for example, they leg may get to shaking. Now, if your leg is shaking and you're sitting down, then that represents a lack of thought control, thought focus, and concentration. You want to always make sure you be calm, because when you're calm, then you're more at ease, you're more relaxed. So I'm going to keep reading. And this book is The Power of Concentration. The Power of Concentration. Let's see. Let's see. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna actually go back a page. Let's see. So many have the idea when they get into a negative state, they are concentrating, but this is not so. They may be meditating, though not concentrating. Those that are in a negative state a good deal of the time cannot, as a rule, concentrate very well. So when a person is within a negative state of mind, their unconscious, automatic, subconscious thinking is so scattered that it's wandering. It's everywhere. So it's just producing negative thoughts. And so when you wake up in the morning and your conscious is just playing negative thoughts automatically, that's because you haven't consciously narrowed your thought focus. So you must consciously direct your thought focus towards one specific aim. And when you narrow your mental focus towards one specific aim early in the day, then you direct your energy, you direct the day in the direction that you want to go into. So when you lack that mental focus or that thought control, then you allow your mind to wander and go into all different directions, negative and positive. And that reflects a lack of thought focus, thought control. So let's finish. So the mind that cannot center itself on one special subject or thought is weak. Also, the mind that cannot draw itself from a subject or thought is weak. So when you get caught thinking about a certain thought and you cannot shift away, because you have what they call thought flexibility, and then you have thought unflexibility. And thought flexibility is when you're able to consciously shift your thought focus at will. But thought unflexibility is when your thought is dwelling on one concept, one thought, one memory. And when you go into this deep negative state of overthinking your thinking, then you're allowing negative, unwanted thoughts to constantly play within a recycling loop. And when it's replaying within a recycling loop, then it's constantly producing unwanted So in other words, I'm going to just make it simple. When a person is fully present in the moment, he or she cannot experience no negative emotions. When a person experiences negative emotions, they're either living in the past or they're anticipating a negative future based upon a negative past traumatic experience. So what the brain does, the brain utilizes past data in order to compare new information that you experience right now in this second with old information in order to decide on how to make the most effective decision moving forward. So the brain is always utilizing past data. Now, thoughts are memories. So you can relive negative past memories or negative memories or positive memories. Now, if you dwell on your negative thinking and your thought focus is focused on so many different things and is scattered, then you lack thought focus for one, and then you're reliving negative past memories. Because when you're fully present, then you can only experience harmonious, positive energy, high vibrational energy. But you experience low vibrational energy when you're living in the past. Somebody commented subconscious programming. Yes, exactly. So when you first wake up, the first hour or two, so the brain is not fully active until like 10 o'clock. So like kids that start school at 8, they start way too early. So in other words, the brain is within an alpha wave state. And when a person is in worry or stress, their brain is in a beta wave state. And that's when the brain is reacting real fast. It's very alert. Now, when your brain is within a beta wave state, that's where fight or flight exists, worry, concentration, decision-making, judgment, reasoning, or analyzing. That's the prefrontal cortex that deals with the beta wave frequency. But when a person is in a flow state and they move a certain way with their hands, they move a certain way just in a body expression, that's when a person is within an alpha wave state. And when you're in that alpha wave state, your prefrontal cortex temporarily deactivate. Now, your prefrontal cortex possess a lot of neural networks and a lot of neural connections that possess your self-image or your sense of self. So your sense of self, a lot of it exists in your prefrontal cortex. Now, when you're in that alpha wave state, then you're more calm, you're more relaxed, you're in your flow. So you move a certain way. You move with a certain flow, with a certain energy. And that's when a person is within an alpha wave state. So you want to make sure you're in an alpha wave state and not a beta wave state. Because when you first wake up and before you go to sleep, your brain is within an alpha wave state. That's creative, free-flowing thoughts. That's when you have a lot of spiritual downloads when you're in that alpha wave state. Now, a baby between the age of a baby being born all the way up to the age of 7, a baby is within a alpha theta wave state, and that's more of a downloading and processing state of being. So like kids should not read until they're around 5 or 6, because the prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. So like babies are meant to make a lot of mistakes between the age all the way up to like 5 and especially 6, because the prefrontal cortex for decision making or logical or being logical or critical in their thinking, because critical thinking is the detailed analyzation of a selective amount of ideas and concepts, and then choosing the most reasonable and effective concepts and ideas after you have a detailed analyzation. Now that's critical thinking. Now a baby's prefrontal cortex that deals with critical thinking is not developed until around 5 or 6. So that's one thing that you should keep in mind. Another thing is, when you hold your thought focus towards one thing for 10 minutes, then you build up your mental strength. Even when you're walking, you don't want to walk and you don't want to just allow your body to guide you in any direction, to whereas you're walking on the sidewalk, but you may go to this side, go to that side, then go to this side. Like, you want to have a steady focus, and you want to execute your goal, and you want to create a systematic plan of action towards self-elevation, self-improvement, and self-expansion. So every person want to expand their level of joy, harmony, beauty in their life, in their reality. But the only way you can expand your beauty, your life, your joy, your magnificent, magical experiences in life is only by studying the spiritual message in everything that you think, everything that you hear, and everything that you say or someone else say. So in other words, everything is speaking to you. But if you choose to only see negative, then you will see negative. But if you choose to see the beauty or the spiritual message in everything, then you will receive the spiritual message. Because remember, it's a human way of thinking, but then there's the spiritual way of thinking. The spiritual way of thinking is looking at every situation with a spiritual lens and seeing things from a spiritual point of view. And when you see things from a spiritual point of view, then you allow yourself to so in other words, I'm gonna put it like this: you have the knower, and the knower is the experiencer experiencing the experience. So you have the thinker. The thinker is in front of the knower, but the knower is behind the thinker. So in other words, you are the observer observing the thinking, but you're not the thinking. You're the one behind the thinking, observing the thinking. You're the one listening to the thinking. So don't get too caught up with identifying what you're thinking or believing that you're every thought that you mentally think. So you want to allow yourself to take a step back and to become the observer. So in other words, if you're watching TV and you see like the subtitles at the bottom, you're not going to say that you're the subtitles. So even with your thinking is like the subtitles. You're the one watching the thinking. You're watching the thinking. You're listening to the thinking. So when you're listening to the thinking, you have to make sure that you don't identify with the thinking. See, the thinker is the one who doubts. The knower, the observer, the one observing the thinking is the one that knows, that doesn't doubt. So that's the part of you that receives the intellectual guidance from your heart, because the heart is the seat of the soul. The heart is the most electromagnetic organ within the body. When a baby is being created and developed within a mother's womb, then the first thing to be developed is the heart. The heart is more powerful. It's more electromagnetic than the brain. The heart actually sends more messages to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. So always follow your heart and trust in what you know and know what you know. When you know what you know, you don't have to question or second guess what you already know to be true. Now, when you get too caught up in thinking that you're thinking and believe in every thought that you mentally think, then you let go of what you know because you get the second guessing and overthinking what your heart already knows. So remember, you're the observer observing the thinking, but you're not the thinking. You're the one observing the thinking. You're listening to the thinking. Like, if I tell every thought that you think is like, oh, my day is going like this, my reality is going like this or like that, that's just you agreeing that that's your truth mentally. So your thoughts about reality is not reality. It's just a thought that you created about reality. So if I start to think like, man, my day gonna be this way and my day gonna be bad, is that true, or is it that I'm just thinking those thoughts and I'm believing those thoughts? So a lot of times when you think like, oh, this situation gonna work out like this, I ain't got the money to pay my bills, so this gonna happen. You're projecting a reality. You're sending that energy out, and any electromagnetic signal you mentally and emotionally send out into the atmosphere pulls back in the reality that reflects and matches that signal. So based upon what you think most consistently will determine what manifests and what synchronizes in your reality. Because your reality and what you synchronize is based upon what you consciously think. What you consciously think is programming your subconscious, and your subconscious is your super spiritual conscious, which is connected to the universal field, the unified conscious. So it's a universal energetic field that exists everywhere at once. Because remember, if there was once no existence, there'd be no existence to even come into existence. So therefore, existence always existed. So life is something that's everlasting, and life is somewhere. So in other words, we're connected to everything. So there's a universal conscious that we can pull from, because every thought that you think is not just your thought. Like if you get a creative idea, someone else on another side of the planet is probably having that same idea at the exact same time as you. For example, you can be thinking something. Somebody can say what you're thinking, and you know when somebody called you and you're like, I was just thinking about you. But see, the thing is when they was dialing your number, they was sending you the mental message. So you got the mental message before they even press call. So by the time they call you, you was like, oh, I was just thinking about you. That's because they mentally communicated with you first. So like even if you have kids, or even if you have your wife, your partner, your soulmate, y'all are in sync. So you can think of something, I can think of something, and my partner, she can do it. I don't have to tell her verbally, but she knows mentally. So they say in ancient times that we used to communicate non-verbally. And even until today, 80% to 85% of communication is nonverbal. So in other words, when we interact with a lot of people, we may pay attention to their eye movements, body language, how they express their hands, how they express themselves, their choice of words, what they choose to say versus what they choose not to say, their placements of words, you know. But then let me bring it back. What you consciously think is programming your subconscious. So your subconscious, let me slow down. Your conscious creates plans. It establishes goals, and it sends that message to your subconscious, and your subconscious executes that goal based upon the information that was sent from your conscious to your subconscious. Now the subconscious can be reprogrammed by habit, repetition, hypnosis, trauma, extreme events, and hemisync. And hemisync is when you synchronize both hemispheres of your brains together, and that's when you create whole brain function, and that's that genius brain. That's when you connect neural connections on this side of the brain. You connect it with the other side of your brain, and you create an information highway where information is being sent quicker than you can think. So like one cell can perform 100,000 actions within 1 second. Now, the only way that's possible is if a second to a cell is different from a second to us. So in other words, you can try to hit a fly, but what you may not understand is that a fly moves so fast that you moving is slow compared to how fast that it moves. So the same way as with your body, that your cells move so quick. Think of it this way. Your heart beat itself. You don't have to tell it to. If you get a cut, your body heal itself. You don't have to tell it to. So there's an unconscious higher aspect of you that is highly intelligent, that already knows the outcome, that already knows the future. So everything that takes place in the physical realm has already taken place in the spiritual realm. So time is delayed. So if you understand light frequency, then one thing you understand about light frequency is that light has to travel. And since light has to travel, your future reality or your future success, because remember, what's meant for you shall always be. nothing or no one can come in between what's meant for you. So what's meant for you shall always be. So light, your success is already probably en route. It's already in motion. It's already traveling, coming towards you. But you're probably catching up to the reality that's already predestined. So in other words, and I'm going to stop saying in other words, but everything you think right now determines what takes place in the next 5 seconds, 5 minutes, or 5 hours. So the future is built upon the past. So you know your future based upon your present. But if you're too busy anticipating a negative future, a future that doesn't even exist yet, then you're creating a negative reality. Because remember, negative thinking is when you're anticipating negative future outcomes. And trust is when you're anticipating positive future outcomes. So worry is when you expect the opposite. To worry is to lack trust in God. So, what was I? So make sure you analyze your thinking about your thinking, and make sure you study your thoughts about your thoughts, and make sure you know why you think certain thoughts, and you want to backtrack the root cause of why certain thoughts surface. So like if I walk down the street and my mind get to automatically plan a certain thought about what if this person say that, or what if the situation go left, then what I know is, first off, to make sure I'm fully present. Because if my mind produce negative thoughts, I'm not fully present. I'm so much in my head that I'm not in my present moment reality. So you must make sure that you think less and you do more. But it's also a time to do more and to think less. But you have to make sure that you're not so much in your head that you're not present in your reality. Because remember, when you're fully present in a moment, you cannot experience no negative emotions. That's the whole point of meditation. Meditation is all about you freeing yourself from your thoughts, because you're not the thinker. You're the one behind the thinking, observing the thinking. So you must detach from certain thoughts and free yourself from your mind and allow yourself to return to the experiencer. Because you are the experiencer experiencing the experience. So every experience is an experiment to be had. But every life gives you the lesson and the test at the same time. But in the midst of you understanding the spiritual message in everything that you encounter or perceive in your reality, you must make sure that you surrender to what your heart already knows. Because when you get to overthinking, because remember, the thinker is the doubter. But the one behind the thinker is the knower, is the one who trusts. So the spiritual way of thinking is dealing with trust, positive future expectations. But the human way of thinking is dealing with worry, which is negative expectations. And remember, to worry is to lack trust in divinity. To worry is to lack trust in God. So in other words, when you worry, you're basically lacking trust in God's plan. So you have the ability to determine a future based upon what you think right now in this second. Now, when you choose to consciously create your reality in the present moment, and you choose to be in your reality, because you can turn up your frequency. Everything is frequency. So just like a radio, you turn the knob, you change the channel, you change the frequency. So when you elevate your mental frequency, then you choose to tap into certain synchronistic rare moments. And then when you pull in these synchronistic rare moments, then you are provided a situation that provides you the opportunity to reinforce your truth, or to live your truth and express your truth, or for you to perceive yourself from a different angle. So when you attract different people on a high energetic level, it's a reflection of your spiritual upgrade. So the more powerful you become, the more powerful people you attract. So when you attract someone powerful, it's a reflection of your powerful transformation. So, yes. Like the director and an actor, the director creates. So that's perfect. So, the conscious is the director. It directs the subconscious. The subconscious works automatic and direct to achieve the goals that the conscious set forth. Now, before you came to this dimension, you read a strip, because your life is your own movie. You're the star character in your own movie. This is your movie. So in other words, before you came to this dimension, You chose, because remember, I'm gonna stop saying remember too. But a person, when you look up the etymology or the origin of the word person, to be a person is to be a mask or to be a character. So when you dealing, like, if you ever heard of the book The 48 Laws of Power, or by Robert Greene, Robert Greene, The 48 Laws of Power, or it's another book he got, but he talk about wearing many different masks. So human nature is deceptive. Human nature is deceptive. So, like, if you go on a job interview, you're not going to tell them every aspect of your past life. You're not going to tell them all of your flaws, your weaknesses, or anything of that nature. If you meet a relationship partner, you're not going to expose all of your flaws and your weaknesses. So, in other words, human nature is to be deceptive and to only reveal a certain aspect of ourselves. So he speaks about in the book exactly that, but also us wearing many different masks and many different appearances. So when you're at a certain place at a certain time, let me say it this way. When you're around different people in different environments, and when you wear different clothes or different jackets, it activates different parts of your personality. So you don't have one identity. Your identity exists on multiple different energetic levels. So you have a lower aspect, but then you have a higher aspect. So it's like a tree with multiple different branches. So there's your soul. Your soul is your ultimate. See, the spirit is an aspect of the soul. It's a fragment of the soul. But see, the spirit returns back to the soul. The soul relates to the source. So the spirit is having see, when consciousness, when God wanted to experience itself, it created itself out of itself and expanded itself all into itself. So when God created itself out of itself, because remember, nothing is really created. Everything that was created out of something that was already existing. So it was never really created. It was only transformed from one form into another form. So when divinity separated from itself, it separated from itself in order to experience itself, but it is the separation in between itself. So when it did that, and then I'm forgetting my train of thought. I'm having so many thoughts, but I'm gonna just say this: when you're dealing with the observer, and when you're dealing with you come into this dimension, was you basically choosing to have a certain experience to perceive yourself as God or divinity from multiple different angles. Now, if your life is easy, like if I'm God and I know I can have anything I want coming to earth, then that's too easy. But if I allow myself to have a challenge and it's not easy for me to get everything that I want, then it makes it more complicated. It makes it more hard. So divinity, God saw perfection as a limitation. So God was like, if I'm perfect, then I'm perfect as is. It's no reason to expand. It's no reason to grow because I'm perfect. But if I allow myself to be imperfect, then that creates room for me to become even more perfect. So God is so imperfect that it's perfectly imperfect, and it's so perfect that it's imperfect, and it's so imperfect that it's perfectly imperfect. So imperfection can only take place within perfection. So you can't have limited, because remember, perfection is limited. If I'm perfect as is. It's no reason to grow. It's no reason to expand. But if I'm imperfect, then that creates the unlimited. It allows room to grow. So you can't have limited without unlimited. You can't have left without right. You can't have back without front. You can't have male without female. So the moment God became a he automatically became a she. And if you disagree, then tell me, how do you have duality with everything on this planet? Everything is duality in this realm of existence. So you wouldn't know up without down. You wouldn't know back without front. You wouldn't know left without right. You wouldn't know good without bad. So even in the scripture it says, I the Lord create good and evil. In the scripture it says this. And I'm not even a Bible reader, but I do sometimes. I dibble and dabble. But my point is this. Divinity knows so much that it knows so less, and it knows so less that it knows so much. So it's basically consciously playing a trick on itself in order to amuse itself and to experience itself from multiple different angles and points of views. And that's just one philosophy of perspective, I should say. You know. But when you're dealing with the concept of reality or the concept of God, then you must have a very expansive point of view on the concept. But not a narrow point of view, because a lot of people regurgitate what they've been told. So like when you was born, you didn't choose your name. You was born into a world that was already set. So they told you that you should walk this way and not that way. You should talk like this and not talk like that. You should wear stuff like this and not stuff like that. You should be in this religion and not that religion. So everything is not everything, but we're born into a world that already has laws and different rules and standards set into place. Spirit is experienced. Yes. So like spirituality is experiencing, it's all about expressing his spirit. So the spirit is experiencing the body, the flesh. So if you go out of space, you need a spacesuit. If you go on the water, you need a water suit. So when you came to Earth, you needed an Earth suit. That's what your skin is. So it's just like when you look at the movie The Avatar. The Avatar reflects a person getting into a suit, a human suit on a different dimension. So before we came to this dimension, we read a strip and be like, okay, I ain't gonna play this character, but I'll play that character. I don't like this role. I'm gonna change that around. I'm gonna change that strip. I'm gonna rewrite that. I'm gonna take that part out. I'm gonna put that in. So you chose to live this life. This reality is already predestined. Remember, time is delayed. You can watch a video, for example, and you can receive the signal late. Like, even if you have a Wi-Fi connection that's coming from the other room into this room, that connection is penetrating instantly through the walls, because the walls is not actually solid, but it appears to be based upon our conscious agreement. So every car, every house, every environment, every neighborhood, every state, every country has its own aura. So every car has its own electromagnetic field. So when you get into someone's car, you're stepping into their dimension. You're stepping into their frequency, or their most consistent frequency. So you can go into someone's house and it can instantly shift your thought focus, and it can actually decrease your vibration based upon the environment. So every neighborhood, every country has its own electromagnetic field. So like if you live in a neighborhood that has a lot of low vibrational energy, then it's going to be somewhat difficult to have a high elevated state of mind, because you have so many low frequency thoughts that's being translated or transferred throughout the atmosphere. So there's always thoughts that we're pulling from the atmosphere. And how you know is the same way that you think a thought and someone says exactly what you're thinking, or the same way that you can get this connection with no cord. So you can communicate with a person millions of miles away quicker than you can. So I'm gonna just put it this way. Just had the live convo last night. Thanks for your awareness. Oh yes, indeed. So I'm gonna just switch the conversation up. I'm gonna get back to reading. So I was just reading about, this is the power of concentration. So the power of concentration, it speaks about the person that cannot direct his thoughts, wishes, or plans or resolutions in studies cannot possibly succeed at his or her fullest extent. The person that is impulsive one moment and calm the next moment has not properly controlled his or herself. He is not a master of his mind, nor his thoughts, feelings, or wishes. So I want to say something about that. So when you don't narrow your thought focus towards one specific aim, then you allow your thought focus to be scattered into wonder. And when you allow your thought focus to wander, then you allow unintentional, negative, unwanted, unconscious thoughts to interfere with your day. So you can get so much in your thinking that you're not grounded in the present moment. Because remember, when you're present, you cannot experience no negative emotions. Negative emotions is when you're so much in your head, you're so much in your thinking that you believe everything that you think. But you're not the thinking. You're the one behind the thinking, listening to the thinking. You're observing the thinking. Don't believe everything that you think. So you have this concept which is called meta thinking, metacognition, in other words. Metacognition or meta thinking is your judgment of your thinking. So you have a thought, and because you have that thought, you have another thought about that thought. Now, your judgment, your secondary thinking about your primary thinking determines the quality of the thinking. So like a thought is not negative because it's just negative. A thought is negative because of your thought about your thought. Like if you have a thought and you have a positive thought about that thought, then that thought is not negative. But you can come back later in the day and you can have a negative thought about that same thought that you saw as positive. But it's all based upon how you judge the thought. So, like for emotions, there's a difference between feelings and emotions. Now, your emotions are, which is energy and motion, is chemical sensations within the body. But your feelings is your interpretation or your perception of your emotions. So how you perceive your emotions or how you judge your emotions will determine how you respond to your emotions. So like when a person is comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, they're basically having a positive feeling about negative emotions. Or you can have a negative feeling about positive emotions. And you can feel like, oh, this positive emotion is too good to be true. I don't want to feel this. Or you may not. Subconscious placements equalize from emotional perception. Yes, exactly. And thank every person for the feedback and compliments as well, and also for your comments. So I'm gonna read a different page in the book. So when the mind can properly concentrate, all the energy of every microscopic cell is directed into one channel, then there's a powerful personal influence generated. Everyone possesses many millions of little trembling cells, and each one of these has a center where life and energy are stored up and generated. If this energy is not wasted but conserved and controlled, this person is influential, but when it is the opposite, he is not influential or successful. Just as it is possible for a steam engine to run with all of its valves open, so it is possible for you to waste your energy and run at your top speed. Each neuron in the gray layer of the brain is the psychic center of thought and action. Each one is pulsating an intelligent force of some kind, and when this force, your thoughts and emotions are kept in check by a conservative, systematic, concentrated mind, the result will be magnetized. So look, basically in a nutshell, when you practice every day reading for 10 minutes a day, make sure you read for 10 minutes a day, make sure you study for 20 minutes a day, or read for 30 or 40 minutes a day. But whatever you do, read 10 pages, read 20 pages. Allow yourself mentally to expand your neural connections, because when you learn new information, it creates new neural connections within the brain. And the more and more you build on what you already know and you start to expand your mental, then the more and more you start to expand your confidence, because your self-trust, because self-confidence is self-trust. Self-confidence is when you trust in your abilities, skills, performance, and decisions. So when you trust in yourself and you trust in your thinking, then you're able to move throughout life with a very with a great sense of direction. And at this point, I don't know what I'm talking about because I've been talking about so many different things. But I will say this before I end. My book is Never Belittle Your Greatness, Only Your Thoughts Exist. It's on Amazon, it's on Apple, it's on Barnes and Noble as well. It's like 108 pages, it's 28 chapters. One chapter is Your Thoughts About Reality Is Not Always Reality. Another chapter is Only Your Thoughts Exist. Another chapter is Solution-Based Thinkers versus Problem-Based Thinkers. Then another chapter is Emotional Independence versus emotional dependence. Another chapter is boldness, self-love, self-acceptance, self-validation. Another chapter is self-mastery, achievers and low achievers. And it possesses so many different things, but I have a lot of excellent testimonies that reflects the sophisticated knowledge and wisdom that I put into that book. It's an ebook. I'm working on my second ebook, but I sold maybe up to like 20 copies. And I got like 60 testimonies or more. I really got like over 300 to 400 testimonies, but I only got like 60 testimonies in my pictures. So if you go to my photo album, you can see it's an album called Testimonies, and it's like 60 testimonies of 60 different clients or customers. But I basically just want to say this. Always make sure you consciously set your intent every single day to relive positive past memories in order to pull that energy from the past into the present so that you can trigger positive emotions in the present moment so you can activate your flow state. Now, the flow state is when you go from a beta wave frequency into an alpha wave frequency, which is more creative, free-flowing thoughts, which is when you receive spiritual downloads. So you want to make sure that you activate and you trigger positive emotions, but you must bring the energy that you want to experience. If you want to experience a high vibrational day, then you want to make sure that you consciously set your intent to focus on high vibrational thoughts or positive rare memories or magical synchronistic serendipitous moments from the past. And when you visualize or you imagine positive past experiences, then you become one with your true self, because you have so in my book I talk about the experience of self versus your thoughts about yourself. So you must identify and separate your thoughts about reality versus your experience of reality. Excuse me. So like when you go throughout life, right? For example, you may know that you move a certain way. You may know that you think a certain way. You may know that you operate on a certain high vibrational level. But then you may come down from that high frequency and you may start to doubt yourself. Now, when you start to doubt yourself and you shift from that high frequency into a lower frequency, because it's all about maintaining that high vibrational energy. So the moment you come down from that high vibrational energy, it's only one or two things that took place. So remember, you have your experience of self, and then you have your thoughts about yourself. Now, your experience of self, when you look at your experience of self, you have multiple different memories and past experiences of you moving a certain way, you thinking a certain way, you talking a certain way, and you just operating on a high level. You have many different experiences of yourself operating on that high level. But then you have many different negative thoughts about yourself that's reflecting a low level of thinking. So your experience of self reflects your true self. Your thoughts about yourself reflects your false self. So remember, you're the experiencer experiencing the thinking, but you're not the thinking. You're the one behind the thinking, listening to the thinking. So when you embrace your experience of self, then you live from what you know to be true from your positive past experiences. But when you live from your thoughts about yourself, then you live from negative, false past experiences. So you could have went through something negative in the past and you could have really judged yourself, or you could have just criticized yourself or criticized your body language or the way in which you operated or the way in which you behaved or whatever. You can negatively judge yourself. But that judgment is based upon a limited assessment and a limited point of view of your true self. So it's only when you're thinking like you're someone that you're not, that you start to produce negative results. So when you know who you truly are, then you express greatness, because your true self, the knower, remember, the knower is behind the thinker. The knower doesn't experience doubt. It only experiences self-trust. The thinker is the one who produces doubt, because the thinker is so busy thinking that it get caught up in the thinking that you start to believe that you're the thinking. So then once you believe that you're the thinking, then you start to identify with every thought that your mind generate. But see, if I get to thinking like, what if this happened? Like, if you wake up in the same room twice, if you keep waking up in the same house and you wake up like, I'm tired of being here, or you wake up and you feel like you in the same room, you in the same life situation, ain't nothing changed. You woke up and and you feel like the day is gonna be just like every day. Now, even though the day is a new day, you didn't brought the past into the present, to whereas you see the present moment through the eyes of the past. So don't allow your negative past experiences to interfere with your present moment perception. So when you bring your past into your present, then you see the present through the eyes of the past. And that's what you call transference. So a person may say something, or a person may do something, but you may assume that they said it or they did it for the same reason as the person in the past. So a person may move a certain way. I may move a certain way with my hands, and you may think I'm trying to play a mind game, but I may just be expressing myself. But because you had a negative traumatic past experience, you're thinking that my behavior or my expressions is out to get you or anyone else's. So it's all about mastering your energy and mastering your thinking. And the only way you can master your energy is knowing why you think certain thoughts and why you feel certain emotions. So when you have a certain emotion, there's a second. I'm gonna tell y'all so every time you have a certain emotion, a negative emotion, let's say you have a negative emotion. Now the way in which you overcome negative emotions is by embracing the emotion. If you don't want to have negative emotions, then you're gonna keep experiencing that negative emotion. But if you say, I'm glad I'm having this negative emotion, I want to have this negative emotion, then the negative emotion is actually going to leave. But the moment you say, I don't want this negative emotion, I don't want to feel this way, I don't want to think these thoughts, then that's when the thoughts only stay. They only stay because you resist them. But the moment you accept them, they leave, they vanish, they disappear. So every second when you have an emotion, when you feel like, just look at it this way. So look, I'm gonna just put my fingers like this, right? Say this the emotion. Now this whole thing is a full emotion. Now when you start to feel just a little bit of the emotion, there's a window, there's a second where you have the opportunity to shift your focus away from that emotion to whereas you don't have to experience the emotion. So you have 1 second opportunity to shift your energetic focus from negative into positive within 1 second. So as soon as the emotion, you start to experience the emotion and it start to come through, but before the emotion come all the way through and it comes just a little bit, you have the opportunity to shift your focus. And let me put it this way. When you're comfortable, then you're only gonna strive to be even more comfortable. See, true strength, true greatness, and true effectiveness on a super high level can only take place through uncomfortability and you embracing uncomfortability. So like every person I ever feared, every person I was ever nervous around, every person I ever felt like had a strong energy, any fear that I had, I didn't run from the situation, I ran towards the situation. Even in the past, when I would doubt myself and I would experience anxiety or nervousness. Now I'm gonna tell you this. Anxiety is another form of excitement. So anxiety and excitement are very, very similar. The only thing different is your perception. Now, if you're having anxiety, it's the same thing as when you're extremely excited. You can be so excited that your heart is just beating. Your heart is just beating because you're so excited. But excitement, because anxiety is when you anticipate a negative future outcome. But excitement is when you anticipate a positive future outcome. So when you worry or you're having negative emotions or anxiety, you're expecting a negative future reality to manifest. But when you're excited, you're having anxiety, but the only difference is you're expecting a positive future reality to manifest into reality. So, based upon your perception will determine whether or not anxiety is anxiety or whether or not negative emotions are negative. Because remember, you can have a positive feeling about a negative emotion, and that's you embracing the negative emotion. That's you embracing the experience. So when you have that positive feeling about that negative emotion, then you control your energy and you can redirect your energy, and you can also concentrate your energy on positivity, because you didn't allow the negative emotion to shift your thought focus into something negative, but instead you allowed the negative emotion to make you feel positive about that experience. So that's one thing, that's key. Then let me say this. I didn't have many different fears, anxiety, and nervousness, and doubts, and all of those things. Now, when I was young, at a young age, I knew one thing. I didn't want to experience doubt. I didn't want to experience fear, and I didn't want to experience anxiety. So my whole life journey been about mastering my energy and concentrating my energy towards one specific emotion or one specific outcome or thought. So from me holding my energy on self-improvement, self-elevation, self-mastery, self-control, thought control, emotional control, behavior control, after focusing on self-development for the last 7 or 8 years, it allowed me to basically reach a certain point in my elevation that I was able to master my thinking and to study my thinking about my thinking. And I was able to control my energy and control my emotions versus allowing my emotions to control me. So I used to blame other people for how I feel. But that's when I used to live from the outside in. But now I live from the inside out. So I don't blame people for how I feel. So no one can make you mad. No one in your life ever made you mad. Because you can't put your hand in my body and make me feel happy or sad. I can't put my finger or my hand in your body or make you feel happy or sad. So in other words, no one can make you doubt yourself. No one can make you experience negative emotions. It's only when you put your happiness in somebody else's hands and you get mad because they drop it. But don't put your happiness in somebody else's hands and get mad because they drop it. It's your responsibility to keep your happiness in your own hands. So you must own your emotions. You must take ownership of how you feel. Because the more and more, see, no one can drain your energy. You can only drain your own energy. No one can affect you but you. You control your own emotions. You can only blame someone for how you feel, but no one can drain your energy. You can only drain your energy. So scientifically speaking, the more you focus on yourself, the more you increase your electromagnetic energy field. But the less you focus on yourself and the more you focus on others, then the more and more your electromagnetic field, energy field, or your aura, the more and more it decreases. So the more you focus on yourself and less on others, then you become powerful and they become powerless within your reality. But the moment you focus more on them and less on yourself, then they become powerful and you become powerless, because you started to highlight their existence over your existence. So never underestimate your self-value and overestimate someone else's self-value. Never highlight someone else's characteristics and abilities over your characteristics and abilities. So it's easy to unconsciously downplay yourself. All you have to do is come around another powerful person that express themselves on a certain level with their hands and how they communicate and how they operate around you. then you may unconsciously externalize your power or feel like they're more dominant than you. Because you may not feel like you're within your flow state. You may not feel like you're within your zone. But if someone else is within their zone and they're flowing and they're expressing themselves on a super high level, then you may externalize your mental energy by focusing on their existence, on how they perceive themselves. See, you can feel like you're the most powerful person in the room. You can feel like you Muhammad Ali. You can feel like you the toughest person on the planet. But guess what? That's not my reality. So I don't care how tough that you think that you are in your reality. I know my truth. I know my reality. So in my book, Never Belittle Your Greatness, it's all about you learning how to master your energy, speak your truth, and be bold, straightforward, and direct, and how to bring a high level of energy so you don't have to submit or be dominated by someone else with a higher frequency or higher energy. But it's all about your energy. What's your energy? What's your truth? Because the moment you submit to someone else's energy or frequency is the moment that you highlight their truth over your truth. And you highlight their abilities over your abilities and skills. So I'm gonna get off this live. Thank everybody for their support. My book is Never Belittle Your Greatness. You can also get this book, The Power of Concentration. Also get the 4 agreements. But also get my book. My book is $15. It's 108 pages. It's 28 chapters. And it's all about how to master your thinking and how to never belittle your greatness and how to activate your flow state and how to make sure that you never stop being you so other people can be them. I'm not going to stop being me so I can be the me that other people prefer for me to be. So, in other words, always live your truth, always express your truth, embrace your rarity, and embrace your uniqueness, and embrace your expression of truth as well as your expression of self. So always speak with confidence, certainty, and clarity, and speak with boldness, and speak with a high level of energy. So my book is on Amazon, it's on Apple, it's on Barnes and Noble, but I sell it personally for my own price. So they sell it a little bit cheaper, $10, but I sell it for $15 because they price take away from my years of research, scientific study, as well as self-observation and experiences. So feel free to support me. Peace and love, and have a magical day. Seek to find a beauty in everything. You can narrow your focus towards problems and you can block out solutions, or you can narrow your focus towards solutions and block out problems. So you can have a solution-based focus or a problem-based focus based upon your thought focus of choice. So either you're going to control your thinking and master your energy and control your reality, or someone is going to come into your reality and come into your environment and orchestrate the energy and influence your energy to be directed towards a negative, low vibrational energy. So someone with a stronger energy or stronger willpower or stronger self-belief than yours can influence your energy, your thought process, if you haven't learned to master your thinking and master your energy. So if you still go outside and you have a lot of social anxiety, then you haven't learned to master your thinking. Your thoughts produce your emotions. Whenever you're thinking, you're feeling. Whenever you're feeling, you're thinking. So when you're thinking certain thoughts and it produces a certain emotion, so what it's called, so I don't know what you mean, what it's called. Matter of fact, just inbox me and we can talk more. But your thoughts produce your emotions. Now your emotions transform or transfers your thoughts into reality. So your thoughts are not as powerful without the emotion. So emotions are feminine. That's the emotions represent the female. Now the man is the thought. So the thought is the thinker is someone that's electric. A man is electric. That's why with sex, the woman, she's magnetic, so she receives. She's more laid back, inactive. The man, he's more proactive and active, and he's the one that gives. He's the electricity. But with all electricity carries magnetism. So you can't have electricity without magnetism. So the moment, so you can't have feminine without masculine. You can't have masculine without feminine. Now, masculine energy is not man energy. It's man and woman energy. Feminine energy is not female energy. It's female and men energy. So we're one and the same. So your thoughts and emotions are produced at the exact same time. So when you're thinking, you're feeling. When you're feeling, you're thinking. Now, I forgot what made me get up on that topic, but all I'm gonna say is this. Always make sure you study your thinking about your thinking all throughout the day. What you want to do is stay reminded of 3 or 5 thoughts all throughout the day, and make sure that you're always thinking a certain way. Now, you have thought organization. So one thing I talk in my book is thought organization. Now, thought organization is the systematic approach on how to think and what to think in certain situations by establishing premeditated solutions, and that helps to basically categorize your thoughts and to increase your thought connectivity. So thought connectivity is a continuous stream of thoughts that's basically related and connected through words of association. So in other words, you get to thinking about one thought, and that one thought leads to many different other thoughts. So in my book, I talk about a thinking checklist. So you must have a thinking checklist. And when you have a systematic approach on how to think and what to think, because there's actually a science to how to think. So critical thinking or scientific thinking is the natural way on how to think. Or in other words, lateral thinking. So also look up lateral thinking. Look up lateral thinking as well as, but I'm gonna just leave you with that. But never belittle your greatness on Amazon, on Apple. But if you want to support me, you can go to Apple, you can go to Amazon, or you can inbox me. I prefer to sell it to you personally, because if you go on Amazon, I'm gonna get the money like 2 months from now. But if you send me a cash app, then we can make everything work. So peace and love. Have a high vibrational day, and seek to find a beauty in everything, and seek to find a spiritual message in every life situation. You're always at a certain place at a certain time for a certain reason. Everything is divinely inspired. And then many magical spiritual signs are coming your way.